The Baltimore Ravens and Diontae Johnson mutually agreed to excuse him of team activities this week. We're also talking some Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen MVP talk. We got some special teams updates about who might be doing kickoffs full time and who is now the Ravens' new punt returner. All that and more in today's episode of the Flock Rundown.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. I feel like I just dropped the post-game episode, but we got some news. So here I am, and let's talk about it. The Ravens just put out a statement about Diontae Johnson, and it says, "We have mutually agreed with Diontae Johnson to excuse him from team activities this week." Harbaugh was asked about it in the presser that he just had. He didn't elaborate much at all, but said that they didn't cut him because there are some front office decisions that are keeping him from being cut. I think we could probably read between the lines and know what that is, and that is a potential comp pick next year. If he gets signed elsewhere, I don't think he's going to get a big deal at this point, but if he does sign somewhere, we should get some kind of comp pick in return. We also will hold him from a contender if we just keep him on the Ravens roster and not cut him to allow him to run to Kansas City or wherever he wants to go play ball. And another reason I think the Ravens are keeping him on the roster is because they really don't want to give the player their way when they do something against the team, right? So like, Diontae refused to go in the game. We do know that much. They put that on blast when they announced his suspension. He refused to go in the game. And he may have been so fed up with his playing time at that point that he kind of did that to get out, right? He's just like, all right, I'm done. Just cut me. I want to go somewhere where I'm heavily involved. But the Ravens don't want to set a precedent where a player does that and then they have to just cut him and give that player their way, you know, because then who knows if anybody has a little bit of drama in the locker room, they're just like, oh, I want out. I want to go play for somebody else. And then the Ravens have to honor that immediately. That's not really a good precedent to set in the front office or just how you run your team in general. So the Ravens are playing hardball because Diontae clearly does want out. There's no way he still wants to stay on the team at this point, but the Ravens aren't going to honor that because Diontae hasn't really helped them at all. He's just done things to kind of bring negative attention to the team and hasn't really bought in, I guess, you know, whether that's the Ravens coach's fault for not getting him involved early enough. I feel like Diontae should have handled it a bit differently. I'm not saying that the coaches aren't, you know, to be blamed either. I think that they definitely could have got him more involved. It's kind of a sad situation. I didn't really ever see this playing out this way. I thought that when we traded that pick that this was a genius trade. I was like, oh man, like we basically gave up nothing and we're going to get Diontae for the rest of this year. It's a great depth piece. It's another weapon for this offense. And then the coaches kind of slow rolled his involvement, and that could be due to a lot of reasons. You know, it could be because Bate and Zay know the offense so well and have such good chemistry with Lamar that it's hard to just kind of throw in another receiver and give him a bunch of targets and have the offense still function at a high level. And then also, who knows how hard Diontae was practicing. I know Harbaugh doesn't like guys that aren't practicing hard. You know, the Ravens really don't operate in a way where your name alone gives you a ton of playing time. I feel like no matter who you are, you need to come in and earn it. And maybe Diontae wasn't practicing as hard. I don't know those variables, but I'm just saying there's layers to why he wasn't getting a ton of playing time. And then obviously that just kept boiling on his end. And then he refused to go in the game. And we're here now, you know, and I would say moving forward, he's not going to play again in a Ravens uniform ever. I think the Ravens are just going to keep him on the roster, but away from the team. He's not going to be at practice. He's not going to be at games. He's not involved with this team at all, even though he may still be on the roster. They're just not going to use him, man. I think that this is pretty clear. If they wanted to cut him, they would have done it. They would have never even suspended him. You know, you suspend him for a week, and then now you're putting out a statement that you're mutually agreeing to not participate in practice all week, which means you're not playing in any games. So he's just going to stay on this team and not be involved at all. And I don't think we're going to cut him unless something really drastically changes because, you wouldn't have went this route if you were going to cut him. So I definitely think it's a weird situation. The Ravens don't deal with situations like this very often. It's definitely sad that it played out like this. I think we definitely could have used a bought in Diontae Johnson, as a depth piece and as another weapon. I know he was probably never going to be heavily involved. I mean, even Zay right now is not lighting up the stat sheet week after week. So I don't think there's a lot of room for Diontae to come in and have 6, 7, 8 catches, touchdown or 2 every game. Like I just don't think that there's that many targets to go his way. But if the relationship went a lot smoother, I really believe that Diontae would have played a role for this team moving forward into the playoffs. I think Diontae would have been involved, maybe not to the level that he wanted to be, but we definitely would have used him in some aspect. And now I think that ship has sailed. And especially with Tez Walker getting an opportunity in yesterday's game and scoring a touchdown on his first catch, great toe tap in the back of the end zone, a guy that we have invested a draft pick into, a young player that has nothing but upside. I think the Ravens are like, all right, we're just going that route, man. We're not even going to use Diontae. We're not going to give a player that doesn't want to come in the game any role. Moving on to a bit of MVP talk, and this is going to continue throughout the end of the year. I definitely don't think this MVP race is over by any means, no matter how the media is playing it. I saw that the NFL just flexed the Bills-Patriots game to an afternoon game this week, so the NFL is clearly trying to put Josh Allen on more TVs and more viewership. There's no other way around that. That's not a great game. Why would you flex the Patriots-Bills to the afternoon game? The Bills have a cakewalk of a schedule the rest of this season, and I think the NFL is trying to put the Bills in more light, and give them more meaningful games by putting it in an afternoon slot, because if it was just a 1 o'clock game playing the Patriots, just like the Ravens were playing the Giants, it's kind of an afterthought. Lamar had a crazy 5-touchdown, no interception game yesterday, and a lot of the talk is, oh, you're playing the Giants. If Josh Allen goes crazy against the Patriots, they're a bad team as well, but now it's in an afternoon slot, so there's going to be a lot more eyes on it, and I just think it's all kind of supporting this Josh Allen for MVP narrative, but the stats don't back that up. Lamar has better numbers than Josh Allen. The only thing Josh Allen has over Lamar really this season is the team record, so I totally understand that they have a 2-game better record than the Baltimore Ravens, so that does hold some weight for sure. But I just don't think this is over. Is it a close race? Absolutely. I think it's a conversation to be had. I think the craziness in this is that everyone's saying it's over. Even the betting odds, minus 900 for Josh Allen, plus 700 for Lamar. I think that Lamar's a good bet at plus 700. That's a great bet because Lamar's got prime time games left. This Saturday game against Pittsburgh, a lot of people are going to watch that. I know Lamar's probably not going to have 5 touchdowns against the Steelers, but if he has a really, really good day, the Ravens handle the Steelers, I really think that boosts Lamar's chances tremendously. The Patriots is not the same level of matchup. So if Lamar goes out there, beats Pittsburgh, and then on Christmas Day when the world's watching, goes out and handles the Texans, this MVP narrative is going to flip upside down on its head, or at least it should. If it doesn't flip at that point, then there's powers that be that are really pulling some strings here to make sure Lamar doesn't win back-to-back MVPs. But the stats are out of this world for Lamar. I mean, he's going to surpass both of his MVP seasons. And that's crazy to say because 2019 was absurd. We thought that 2019 season would never get touched again statistically. And Lamar is going to beat that. He already has 34 touchdowns. His 2019 touchdown number was 36. So he's definitely going to get 2 more touchdowns. And I think that this race is far from over. I think Lamar has a lot more meaningful games. Now, if he loses a couple games or doesn't have a great showing against Pittsburgh and Allen goes and destroys the Patriots, then yeah, it's going to separate even further. And I'm not saying Allen isn't deserving. I think it's a conversation, though. I just think I have a problem with it being over already. There's 3 weeks left. The Ravens have some meaningful games in prime time. Lamar has better stats than Josh Allen. Yards, touchdowns, however you want to spin it, completion percentage. I mean, what is Allen really doing better than Lamar? I just don't see how this race is over. That's all I say. I just think let's let it play out. And Lamar right now, to me, has just as good of a chance as Josh Allen to get this MVP. I mean, Joe Burrow has equivalent numbers to these guys as well, but he's not going to be in this conversation because his record is way worse. So I understand Joe Burrow not really being mentioned, even though his numbers are there. His record's way worse. But Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are both playoff teams, and Lamar has a bit better stats. Allen has a little bit better of a record, but Lamar, when going head-to-head against Allen, won 35-10. You know, Josh Allen did not do well against the Ravens in Week 4, so I just don't see how this race is over by any means. It just seems like everyone's saying it's a runaway favorite, even the betting odds. I just don't understand that at all. I would put my money on Lamar Jackson at plus 700. I'm not betting Josh Allen at minus 900. That's absurd, you know? That, to me, says that this race is over, but I just can't comprehend how the race is over with 3 weeks left and Lamar has better numbers and won head-to-head. Last thing I wanted to talk about today is we did get some key special teams updates from Harbaugh today. I know it's not always the most interesting thing in the world, but I'm a diehard fan. I'm looking at every aspect of this team. And Harbaugh said that our new punt returner, at least for the time being, is going to be Desmond King. We saw he had a nice punt return in that Giants game. Tylan Wallace has been struggling a little bit with catching the ball in the past few weeks and just making some decisions, letting the ball go or not. So I think that they trust Desmond King. They like what they have with him a bit more right now, and Harbaugh did confirm that he will be our official punt returner moving forward. Also gives us some cornerback depth. I'm sure they don't really want to thrust him into a big role at corner, but it does give some secondary depth if needed. And then we saw Jordan Stout doing kickoffs when the backups came in yesterday, and Harbaugh was asked about that, and he said that there is a strong possibility that they do go in the direction of Stout full-time doing kickoffs and giving Tucker just the field goal duty. I wouldn't mind that at all, especially if that does help Tucker be more consistent or get back to himself. You know, he doesn't have to worry about a different style of kicking. He's only kicking field goals. If that does help him, I know he's always done both, but as he ages, if that can extend his career and get him more consistent, then I'm all for it, man. A kickoff's a kickoff. Like, most of the kickoffs are booted in the end zone anyway. You know, since this kickoff change has happened, I haven't really seen a ton of returns. A lot of people kick it in the end zone. Stout can kick it in the end zone too. So I think they're giving him some work. I know that this isn't a full-time switch yet, but it seems like they're leaning towards potentially giving Stout the full-time kickoff duties and punting duties and then allowing Tucker to just kick field goals. But that's it for today, guys. I just dropped the post-game episode this morning, so if you haven't seen that, please go check that out as well. Spend some time doing some cool edits on there. Got a bunch of highlights throughout, but wasn't planning on doing another video today either, but this Diontae Johnson news came out, and there were some other updates that I wanted to talk about, so here we are. But let me know what you guys are thinking about this Diontae Johnson situation and the MVP race and the special teams changes. What are your guys' thoughts on everything? And as always, guys, I appreciate you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame